All right, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host, David Lesch. We're always encouraging you to stay connected, so tweet me at David Lesch. More than 11,000 writers for television and film went on strike, stating that their wages are stagnant and working conditions have deteriorated in the streaming era. Here to tell us more is employment attorney Jon Bell. Jon, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, David.
It's a pleasure. Well, it's a fascinating time, as usual, in the television industry. Where do we stand right now with the writer's strike, just as we sit here today?
So I don't see any immediate end in sight. I know the last strike started in 2007, went towards into 2008 and lasted about 100 days. Right now, this one started at the beginning of May, about May 2nd or May 3rd. The writers are doing what they need to do. By striking, they're bringing a lot of attention to the issues of why they feel a strike is necessary. They're looking for more pay. They want residual payments that they used to be entitled to, that they're not through the streamlining system. And they're looking for other benefits as well. For example, the AI, the artificial intelligence, they're concerned about that technology in the future replacing their jobs.
Well, let's make it clear. Any television show, any streaming service that you're watching, or even movies, these are writers. Writers are writing the content. Am I correct? They're the ones who are putting down the words on the paper. Am I right?
Yeah, writers are writing the content. That's absolutely correct. And what used to happen back in the day with series is that these writers had some job security in that they were hired for 8 or 9 months to do an entire season for the show. And if the show was resold or repackaged or there was a rerun, they would get these residual checks. The difference with these streamlined services is that they hire a lot fewer writers during a short period of time, and it's almost like gig work. And then when these streamlined services have these episodes just sitting there, the writers don't get any extra money for the time when customers or consumers are replaying, or let's say it's sold or played by another network. They don't get any checks, or if they do, it's very minimal, like a 1 or 2 cent check. So they're saying it's wrong. Over the course of time, over the past decade, writers have lost 23% of their salary based upon inflation and other numbers.
Now, why wasn't this thought about? I mean, streaming has been around, but certainly this had to come up where the writers they're working on all these episodes on whether it's Netflix or it's Hulu or wherever it is. Why wasn't this thought about at some point? What am I missing?
And that's a very good point, David. I don't know why. Of course, I wasn't involved directly in the negotiations, even though I negotiate a lot of different CBAs for other companies. I don't know why this hasn't been brought up in the past, but I can tell you right now, what they're asking for is $429 million a year extra for these writers. And although that seems like a lot of money, if you put it in perspective of the $429 million, Disney would be responsible for like $75 million, but their annual revenue is $82 billion. So that only equates to 0.091% of the revenue. So they're really looking for modest bump ups considering all the work that they do. They want a secure schedule as opposed to working at one place and then being fired and have to look for another gig.
How are shows being affected right now? Like, how is it affecting us watching? I understand there was no Saturday Night Live last weekend. Like, how is this affecting us? And is it going to affect us as the viewers?
So it is going to affect us as the viewers because we enjoy these series that are being written by these writers, right? So like you mentioned, Saturday Night Live is not running. A lot of the late shows or all the late shows are not currently running. Most of those actors are coming out in favor of the writers. There are not too many public entities coming out in favor of the studios. They believe that the studios need to give more to these writers.
All right, so you've been on both ends of this. You've done a lot of negotiations. Maybe you could look at your crystal ball. Where is this heading? How much longer? And who's going to be giving in? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it's going to last at least another 30 to 60 days because I don't see that they're close. Obviously, a deal eventually will be made. There has to be some compromises. But I do believe ultimately fairness will prevail and the writers will end up on top.
What seems to be the biggest sticking point, though? I mean, I understand streaming is an issue, but there's got to be more to it than just the streaming. Because that, I would think you could work out the numbers at some point based on the revenue that's coming in on the streaming to Paramount or to Universal or wherever it's coming in. Is there anything else that's kind of mixed into this whole negotiation?
David, unfortunately, like most CBAs, it's all about money. They're looking for $429 million a year, while the studios have offered $86 million. So we're not. I know that you're a litigator. You've negotiated a number of times. I would say that's a fair amount that they are apart. Although there is going to have to be some type of bridge, because now with the strike, it certainly is putting pressures on the studios. So, and the writers, they want to get back to work, and I'm sure they're also writing at home. They just can't do anything. So as soon as this is over, I'm sure there's going to be all your shows will be back on air and running smoothly. But we have to get to that point.
What, you've been doing this for a long time. What is the tact in terms of negotiation to get both sides to reach some type of agreement? How would you be representing? Let's start with maybe you're wearing the hat of the studios. How would you take this and maybe take it home for them?
The best thing that you could do is get to the table. You'd have to have a neutral place. You invite the Writers Guild, you invite the studios, you have them in a locked room for however long it takes until they could get something done. If they need to call in a third party, mediator, arbitrator type person, that's fine as well. But if they're not at the table, there'll never be an agreement. So that's really the key, is going around the clock. Over time, people get tired, they make certain concessions. At the end, you have what's pretty much a fair deal. And again, these things constantly get renegotiated. 3 years from now, it's going to be renegotiated again.
Why is that? What makes you think it'll be renegotiated another time?
Every 3 years, is, from my research, every 3 years, this collective bargaining agreement gets renegotiated.
Which is, I guess, gets back to the earlier point I made. If it keeps getting renegotiated, and streaming has been around for so long, it's just hard to understand why we're even at this point. You would think instead of pennies on the dollar, it would be dollars on the $10. I mean, how has somebody not thought this through with all the money that's being made on all the streaming services?
David, like I said, you brought up a great point. I don't know the answer to that, but I could tell you that maybe they learned their lesson. Number one, inflation is killing everybody, so the writers are probably really feeling it, and now they're being more vocal about the fact that their pay decreased by 23% over the decade. And they're also learning their lesson because now they're bringing up AI, artificial intelligence.
Well, what do you think about that?
They're looking forward.
Do you think AI can seriously replace some of these writers, or is it just a fallacy?
Yeah, well, the argument is they're going to be feeding AI all these scripts from these writers that they've produced, or the scripts that they've written in the past. They're going to be feeding that to the AI. The AI equipment is going to be using that. The writers are not going to be paid for that, and then AI will be able to replace a vast majority of the writers. So they're looking down the road. Maybe they should have done that with the streaming services, and that's what's happening.
Well, let's see. Hopefully the AI won't replace you and I, but who knows? Listen, thanks for coming on. Maybe you'll come back again and give us a little bit of update on what's going on in Hollywood.
I appreciate it, David. Thanks so much. Have a great day.